The camera holds on a single image, a hand gripping a fountain pen. The pen hovers above a signature line on a legal document. We can see a name already written there. Naomi Langford Hartwell. The cursive is elegant, practiced, perfect. But the hand holding the pen is masculine. Strong fingers. A platinum wedding band catching the light. The scratch of pen on paper fills the silence. A grandfather clock ticks somewhere in the distance. Muffled laughter drifts up from a party happening floors below. She stared at her own name on the document, but she had not written it. The signature was perfect. The curves, the flourish on the N, the way the A in Hartwell always leaned slightly left. After 15 years of marriage, he had learned to forge more than her handwriting. He had forged her consent, her voice, her entire existence. And now, standing in the cold marble foyer of a mansion she had designed with her own hands, Naomi Langford Hartwell understood something that would change everything. The man she loved had never seen her as a wife. He had seen her as a signature, waiting to be stolen. Have you ever given someone the power to speak for you, and then realized they were using your voice to tell lies? Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered when you stopped recognizing the person staring back? If you are new here, welcome to the Isle of Secrets. This is the channel where power meets passion, and redemption is always worth the fight. We tell stories about the men and women who run empires, build fortunes, and lose themselves along the way. Stories about CEOs and executives who discover that the boardroom cannot teach you how to love, and that sometimes the person who saves you is the one you never saw coming. Every week, we bring you a new journey filled with romance, betrayal, impossible choices, and the kind of transformation that changes everything. These are not fairy tales. These are stories about real human struggle, real consequences, and real redemption. So if you love drama that makes you think, romance that makes you feel, and twists that you never see coming, you are in the right place. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Naomi had spent 15 years building a life with Marcus Hartwell. She thought she was building a home, a legacy, a future. She was building a crime scene, and she was both the victim and the evidence. $27 million. That is what Marcus had borrowed against their home, against her home, using signatures she never gave. But the money was not the real crime. The real crime was this. Marcus had erased Naomi so slowly, so completely, that when she finally tried to escape, she discovered there was almost nothing left to save. Her business dissolved. Her reputation weaponized. Her identity reduced to ink on paper that someone else controlled. And now, with forensic accountants circling, criminal charges looming, and the social world she once inhabited turning its back on her, Naomi faced a choice that would define everything. Accept the settlement, sign one more document, walk away with her silence and a fraction of what she was owed, or refuse, fight, and risk losing not just the mansion, but her freedom, her sanity, and the last shred of the woman she used to be. This is the story of what happens when greed writes checks that karma eventually cashes. But I need to warn you. Before we reach the moment when Marcus Hartwell's empire collapses around him, before we see the courtroom revelation that destroyed everything he built, before we witness the look on his face when he realized his perfect wife had become his perfect undoing, we have to go back to the library where it all began. Back to the night Naomi almost signed away her soul, and the single moment of hesitation that saved her life. Because this story is not just about fraud. It is about what happens when the person you trust most turns your identity into their weapon. And it is about what it takes to sign your own name again, when someone else has been writing it for years. Before we begin this journey, I need you to do something. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications, because stories like this one do not come along every day. And if you have ever felt invisible in your own life, if you have ever wondered what it would take to reclaim your voice, this story is for you. Now, let me take you back to the beginning. Crescent Manor sat on 17 acres, overlooking Harrington Bay, and at golden hour, it looked like something from a dream. The kind of dream you have when you are young and poor, and believe that beauty can save you. The kind of dream that takes decades to build and seconds to shatter. Naomi walked through the grand hallway she had designed. Every detail in this house bore her fingerprint. The reclaimed oak floors she had sourced from a demolished church in Vermont. The commissioned paintings from local artists whose names no one in this neighborhood would recognize. The way afternoon light fell through windows she had positioned precisely for this effect, casting warm rectangles across walls she had painted herself before they could afford contractors. This was her masterwork. Crescent Manor. The house that proved Naomi Langford had become someone. She paused before a family portrait hanging in the east corridor. In the photograph, Cordelia Hartwell, Marcus's mother, stood at the center in ivory silk. Marcus stood beside her, one hand on her shoulder, the protective sun, and Naomi was positioned at the edge of the frame, her smile, not quite reaching her eyes, almost cropped out of the composition entirely. She remembered the day that portrait was taken. She remembered Cordelia's instructions to the photographer. Make sure the light catches my good side. And perhaps Naomi could step back a bit. She is casting a shadow. Naomi had stepped back. She had been stepping back for 15 years. I used to tell myself the position did not matter. That being in the picture at all was victory enough. But that is the thing about erasure. It does not happen all at once. It happens 1 inch at a time, until you wake up one day and realize you have been cropped out of your own life. She turned away from the portrait and continued down the hall, her heels clicking against the floors she had chosen, past the walls she had painted, through the home she had built. But whose home was it really? To understand how Naomi Langford became Mrs. Marcus Hartwell III, you have to go back 15 years, to a gallery opening in downtown Harrington Bay, to a young woman in a dress she had sewn herself, standing in front of a space she had transformed. Naomi was 27 years old. She ran a staging business out of her apartment, transforming foreclosed properties into model homes for real estate firms who could not afford established designers. She was brilliant at it. She could walk into any empty room and see what it wanted to become. Her professors at Harrington State had called her work visionary. Her clients called her affordable. She called herself surviving. The gallery opening was different. A wealthy developer had hired her to stage the space for an art show fundraiser. And for the first time, Naomi's work was being seen by people who had money. Real money. The kind that could change a life. She was adjusting a sculpture's lighting when she felt someone watching her. Marcus Hartwell was 32, already a vice president at his family's development company, and devastatingly handsome in the careless way of men who have never had to try. He crossed the room with a champagne flute in each hand and a smile that promised adventure. "You are the one who did this," he said, gesturing at the transformed space. The staging, the atmosphere. Naomi took the champagne he offered, but did not drink it. "I designed the interior, yes. Designed." He repeated the word like he was tasting it. "That is modest. You did not design this room. You gave it a soul." She met his eyes. "Spaces do not have souls, Mr. Hartwell. People do. I just help people see what they are feeling." "And what am I feeling right now?" "I think you are feeling curious. Maybe a little intrigued." probably trying to figure out how a girl from Glendale Heights ended up at a party like this. Marcus laughed. The sound was warm, genuine, surprised. And you think I care where you are from? I think everyone in this room cares where I am from. They are just too polite to ask. He stepped closer. She could smell his cologne. Expensive and subtle. You see something different than everyone else, do you not? I see what things could become. Most people only see what they already are. That is either genius or madness. Naomi smiled for the first time that night. Is that not the same thing? He loved her fire then. He loved her difference, her fearless creativity, the way she refused to shrink in a room designed to make women like her feel small. He loved that she came from nothing and saw everything. What he did not love was what would happen when she stopped needing him to see it for her. The library at Crescent Manor was Naomi's favorite room in the house. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined with first editions she had collected over the years. A fireplace she had restored herself. Windows overlooking the rose garden she had planted their second spring in this house. Marcus found her there on a Tuesday evening, 3 months before she would file for divorce. She was reading, or trying to read, when he entered with a stack of documents and a smile she did not trust. He was carrying 2 glasses of wine. He had not brought her wine unprompted in years. There you are, he said, his voice warm in a way that felt rehearsed. I have been looking all over. Naomi set down her book. Well, you found me. He handed her a glass. She noticed his hands were steady, too steady, like he had practiced this moment. I was thinking about us today, Marcus said, settling into the leather chair across from her. About when we first met. Do you remember that gallery opening? Of course I remember. You were wearing a green dress. You had made it yourself. And you looked at me like I was just another rich fool, trying to impress you. You were trying to impress me. He laughed, but the laugh did not reach his eyes. I was. And somehow it worked. Naomi watched him. After 15 years, she knew every version of Marcus. The charming Marcus who wanted something. The cold Marcus who had been denied. The frightened Marcus who appeared at 3 a.m. when he thought she was asleep, pacing their bedroom and muttering about numbers. This was charming Marcus, which meant he wanted something. What is this about, Marcus? He set down his wine and picked up the stack of documents. His movements were casual. Practiced. Just some paperwork. Routine refinancing. My attorneys say we need your signature for some of the holdings. Naomi did not reach for the papers. Refinancing what? Some of the property assets. Nothing complicated. She did know. That was the problem. For years, she had let him handle everything, trusting that the man who loved her would protect their shared interests. Trusting that her name on documents meant something. I would like to read them first. His smile flickered. It is 50 pages of legal language. Naomi. Trust me. It is mind-numbing. Then I will take my time. Marcus set the documents on the table between them. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Of course. Take your time. But my attorneys need them by Friday. Naomi picked up the first page. Dense text. Legal terminology she did not recognize. Phrases like subordination, agreement, and secured interest, and acceleration clause. She would need help understanding this. I think I would like Diana to look at these, she said carefully. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Diana. Marcus repeated the name like it was poison. I want to understand what I am signing. He stood abruptly, his wine sloshing. What you are signing is 15 years of trust, Naomi. 15 years of me building a life for us, providing for us. protecting everything we have. And now you want to bring in outsiders because, what? You do not trust me? I did not say that. You did not have to. They stared at each other across the library. The fire crackled. Outside, the sun was setting over the bay. Fine. Marcus's voice was ice. Have Diana look at them. Have a whole team of lawyers examine every word. But do not come crying to me when this costs us everything. He walked to the door, then turned back. I built this life for you, Naomi. Everything you have is because of me. It would be nice if you remembered that, once in a while. He left. The door closed behind him, with a sound like a period at the end of a sentence. Naomi sat alone in the library, holding documents she did not understand, married to a man she no longer recognized. She did not sign that night. She placed the papers on the desk and decided to sleep on it. That single hesitation saved her life. The next morning, Naomi woke to silence. Marcus had already left for the office. His side of the bed was cold, untouched. He had slept in his study again. Or maybe he had not slept at all. She went through her morning routine: shower, coffee, the view from the kitchen window overlooking the garden. Normal motions that felt suddenly foreign, as if she were rehearsing someone else's life. It was only when she entered her dressing room that she saw it. A manila envelope lay on her vanity. Her name was written on the front, in Marcus's handwriting. She opened it. Inside was a single document. The signature page from last night's paperwork. And there, at the bottom, in elegant cursive, Naomi Langford Hartwell. But she had not signed it. Her hands began to shake. She pulled the page closer, studying the signature. At first glance, it was perfect. The loops, the flourishes, the slight lean of the letters. Her handwriting exactly. Except the L in Langford curved wrong, just slightly. A mechanical precision where her own hand would have been fluid. She went to her desk drawer and pulled out old letters, birthday cards, legal documents she had signed over the years. She compared. The differences were subtle, almost invisible. But they were there. Marcus had forged her signature. A note had been scrawled at the bottom of the envelope in his handwriting. Signed, notarized. Done. The first time someone steals from you, you blame yourself. You wonder what you did wrong, what you missed, what you should have seen. But this was not a stolen wallet or a missing necklace. He had stolen my consent. He had written yes when I had said wait. And that document, notarized, filed, legally binding, would tell the world that Naomi Hartwell had agreed to risk everything she owned. That she had chosen this. But I had not chosen anything. My husband had chosen for me. And now, I understood. He had been choosing for me for years. I just had not seen the signatures before. Naomi sat on the edge of her bed, holding the forged document. Her hands would not stop shaking. For a long moment, she was utterly still. Then she reached for her phone. She scrolled to a contact she had not called in months. Diana Mercer. She pressed call. Naomi just discovered that her husband has been forging her signature, stealing not just money, but her identity, her consent, her voice, and now she is about to make a phone call that will change everything. But here is my question for you. Have you ever trusted someone who was secretly working against you? Drop a comment below. And tell me. I want to hear your story. And make sure you are subscribed, because what happens next will shock you. Diana Mercer's law office was everything Crescent Manor was not. Glass and steel instead of oak and marble. Clean lines instead of inherited curves. A space designed for clarity, not performance. Naomi sat across from her oldest friend. The forged documents spread between them, like evidence at a crime scene, which, she was beginning to understand, they were. Diana had not changed much in 15 years. Still sharp-tongued, still immaculately dressed, still looking at the world like it was a puzzle she was determined to solve. They had met when they were both struggling, building their careers from nothing, believing that hard work would be enough. Diana had been right. Naomi had married Marcus Hartwell. "My God," Diana said, setting down the signature analysis she had commissioned. "Naomi, this is not just fraud. This is a pattern." "What do you mean?" Diana slid a second document across the desk. "I had my investigator do some preliminary work. This is not the only forged signature." Naomi's stomach dropped. "What else is there?" Diana's voice was careful, controlled. The way she spoke when delivering news she knew would devastate. 2 home equity loans against Crescent Manor. 12 million on the first. 15 million on the second. Both with your name on the signature line. Both notarized by the same person. Both used to transfer funds to accounts connected to Hartwell Development Partners. $27 million. The room tilted. Naomi gripped the arm of her chair. "I never signed any of that." "I know you did not." Diana's eyes were steady. "But the bank does not know that. The notary certified a signature. As far as the law is concerned, you authorized these loans." "And Naomi?" She hesitated. "There is more." "How can there possibly be more?" "The loans are in default. Payments have been missed. The bank is threatening foreclosure proceedings against Crescent Manor." Naomi could not breathe. The house she had designed, the home she had built with her own hands, the one thing she had believed was truly hers. "He is going to take my house. He is trying to." Diana leaned forward. "But we are not going to let him." "How? How do we fight this?" "I did not know about any of it. I did not sign anything. But if the documents look legitimate, if the notary says he watched me sign, how do I prove I did not?" Diana was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that would change everything. "We prove the signatures are forged. We prove he has done this before. And we find out where the money went. And if we cannot, we will. But Naomi, I need you to understand something. If we pursue this, everything comes out. The finances, the marriage. Your entire life becomes evidence. Are you ready for that?" Naomi thought about the family portrait, about being positioned at the edge of the frame, about 15 years of stepping back. "I have been invisible for 15 years, Diana. Maybe it is time someone finally saw me." The divorce was filed on a Thursday. Naomi signed the petition herself, in Diana's office, with Diana and her paralegal as witnesses. Her hand did not shake. Her signature was her own. Within 48 hours, everything changed. Marcus had Naomi's access to their joint accounts frozen. A legal maneuver, his attorneys claimed, necessary to protect marital assets during the divorce proceedings. It left Naomi with the cash in her wallet and nothing more. The Harrington Arts Council, where Naomi had served on the board for 8 years, sent a polite email thanking her for her service and informing her that the board had decided to move in a new direction. Invitations stopped arriving. Phone calls went unanswered. At the country club where she had hosted charity luncheons, the manager informed her that her membership was under review. And then there were the whispers. A woman Naomi had considered a friend crossed the street to avoid her outside the grocery store. At the salon, conversations stopped when she entered. Eyes slid away. Through a mutual acquaintance, Naomi learned what Marcus was telling people. She is unstable. Always has been. I tried to protect her. But now that the divorce is happening, All this paranoia is coming out. She is making wild accusations, claiming I forged documents. It is sad, really. I just hope she gets the help she needs. In 15 years, I had never raised my voice at a dinner party, never made a scene, never given anyone reason to question my composure. I had been the perfect Hartwell wife. And now, because I had dared to ask questions about forged documents and stolen money, I was unstable, paranoid, sad. This was Marcus's genius. He was not just stealing my assets. He was stealing my credibility. By the time we reached a courtroom, who would believe the bitter ex-wife? Who would take her word against the Hartwell name? He was trying to erase me before the trial even began. 3 weeks after the divorce filing, Diana called Naomi into her office for a meeting. "There is someone I want you to meet." His name was Adrian Cole. He entered Diana's conference room carrying a worn leather briefcase and wearing a pressed shirt that had been ironed carefully, but not expensively. He was not handsome in the obvious way Marcus was. No sharp suits, no practiced charm. But there was something solid about him. Real. Naomi noticed his hands as he opened his files. Working hands, not manicured. A contrast to everything she had known for 15 years. "Mrs. Hartwell," Adrian said, and his voice was calm, measured. "I am a forensic accountant. Diana asked me to review your husband's financial records. What have you found?" Adrian looked at her directly. Not at Diana, not at the room, at her. "I have found a lot, Mrs. Hartwell, and I think you need to hear all of it." He spread documents across the conference table. Bank statements, corporate filings, transaction records. Your husband's company, Hartwell Development Partners, has been insolvent for approximately 18 months. They have been covering losses with new investor money, robbing Peter to pay Paul. The loans against your home were not investments. They were desperate attempts to plug holes in a sinking ship. Naomi stared at the documents. Numbers swam before her eyes. "I had no idea." "I know you did not. That is why the records are buried so deep." Adrian paused, then continued. "But there is something else." He slid a new document across the table. "Your staging company, Langford Interiors. The one he incorporated into his business 8 years ago." Naomi's throat tightened. "What about it?" "The revenue from your projects was substantial. Over $4 million in the first 3 years. He funneled all of it into Hartwell Development. Every dollar you earned went to prop up a company that was already failing." She could not speak. $4 million. Years of her work, her vision, her name. "I did not know," she finally managed. Adrian's voice softened. "I know you did not. That is why the records are buried so deep. He did not want you to know you were the one keeping him afloat. He told me I did not understand business." Her voice was barely a whisper. "You understood it better than he did." Adrian held her gaze. "You built something real. He just took credit for it." For a long moment, no one spoke. The conference room was silent, except for the distant hum of traffic outside. Then Diana cleared her throat. "Naomi, we have enough to fight this. The forged signatures, the hidden debts, the misappropriated funds from your business. We can prove he defrauded you." Naomi looked at Adrian's documents. "At the evidence of years of theft and deception. What do I have to do?" Adrian and Diana exchanged a glance. "We build the case," Diana said. "We document everything. And when we get to court, we show the world exactly who Marcus Hartwell really is." The weeks that followed were brutal. Naomi was deposed for 7 hours by Marcus's legal team. They questioned her about her mental health, her childhood, her education. They implied she had always been unstable. They suggested she had married Marcus for money. She answered every question calmly. She did not rise to their provocations. She had learned long ago that a black woman in a room full of hostile white faces could not afford to show anger. Composure was her only weapon. Marcus was deposed as well. Diana questioned him about the forged signatures, the hidden loans, the misappropriated funds. He was charming, evasive, occasionally contemptuous. When Diana showed him the signatures and asked if they were forgeries, Marcus smiled. "My wife has been under a lot of stress. I would not be surprised if she simply forgot signing these documents." "Mr. Hartwell," Diana replied. "3 independent handwriting analysts have confirmed these signatures are forgeries. Are you suggesting they are all mistaken?" "I am suggesting nothing, counselor. I am just a concerned husband." Meanwhile, Adrian continued to dig, and what he found was worse than anyone had imagined. The fraud was not limited to Naomi. Marcus had been running a scheme within Hartwell Development Partners for years. Shell companies, falsified returns, Ponzi-like structures using new investor money to cover old losses. "If this goes to trial," Adrian told Naomi and Diana, "it will not just be about your divorce, it will be about federal charges. Securities fraud, wire fraud. He could face prison." Diana leaned back in her chair. "And if he faces prison, Naomi, he will not settle quietly. He will fight with everything he has. He will try to take you down with him. He will claim you were complicit, but I was not. I did not know anything. We can prove that, but proving it will be a war. A public, ugly, exhausting war. You need to decide if you are ready for that." Naomi thought about her empty bank accounts, her canceled memberships, the friends who had abandoned her, the whispers that followed her everywhere. Then she thought about her signature on documents she had never seen, about years of her work stolen and misused, about a man who had erased her so completely that he had forgotten she was real. "He has taken everything from me," she said quietly. "My money, my reputation, my identity. If I walk away now, if I let him get away with this, then he wins. And I spend the rest of my life being the woman who let Marcus Hartwell define her." Diana nodded slowly. "So what do you want to do?" "I want to fight." The Hartwell Foundation Gala was the social event of the season. Every year, the Hartwells transformed the Harrington Grand Ballroom into a glittering monument to their own philanthropy. Crystal chandeliers, champagne towers, the city's wealthiest and most powerful gathered to celebrate the family name. This year, Naomi was not supposed to be there. Marcus had made that clear through his attorneys. Her presence would be inappropriate, given the ongoing legal proceedings. It would be best for everyone if she stayed away. Diana agreed. "It is not worth the risk," she said. "Let him have his party. We will have our day in court." But Naomi could not stop thinking about all the galas she had attended as Mrs. Hartwell, all the smiles she had given to people who looked right through her, all the time she had stood at Marcus's side, silent and beautiful and invisible. She was done being invisible. She texted Diana at 9 o'clock on the night of the gala. "I am going. Do not try to stop me." Naomi chose her dress deliberately. A deep emerald silk that she had bought years ago. Before Marcus had started choosing her wardrobe, he had told her it was too much, too bold, not appropriate for a Hartwell wife. Tonight, she wore it anyway. She put on the earrings her mother had given her on her wedding day. Not diamonds, simple gold hoops that had belonged to her grandmother. Real, in a way that nothing in Marcus's world was real. She put her phone in her clutch, fully charged, recording app ready. She looked at herself in the mirror. For the first time in years, she held her own gaze. For 15 years, I dressed for the room, for the expectation, for the Hartwell name. Tonight, I dressed for myself. And somewhere deep inside, in the part of me that Marcus had not managed to erase, I felt something I had not felt in years. I felt dangerous. The Harrington Grand Ballroom glittered like a jewel box. Crystal chandeliers scattered light across marble floors. Champagne towers rose like monuments to excess. The orchestra played something elegant and forgettable. Naomi entered alone. The effect was immediate. Conversations faltered. Heads turned. Whispers spread like ripples across a pond. There she is. I cannot believe she came. After everything she has put Marcus through. Naomi felt their eyes. Pitying. Hostile. Curious. The weight of 100 judgments. Pressing against her skin. She did not flinch. She took a glass of champagne from a passing waiter and moved through the crowd with the quiet confidence of a woman who had nothing left to lose. Marcus saw her from across the room. For one unguarded moment, his mask slipped. Pure rage flickered across his face like lightning. Then, it was gone, replaced by a smile that did not reach his eyes. He crossed the ballroom and intercepted her near the champagne tower. They spoke in undertones that no one else could hear. "What are you doing here, Naomi?" "Supporting the foundation." "Is that not what Hartwell wives do?" "You are not a Hartwell wife anymore. You gave that up when you hired lawyers and started making accusations." "I am not making accusations, Marcus. I am asking questions. Like, where did $27 million go?" His jaw tightened. His hand gripped his champagne glass too hard. "Be very careful, Naomi." His voice was low, threatening. "You do not know what you are starting." She met his eyes without flinching. "I think I know exactly what I am finishing." She walked away, leaving him standing alone by the champagne. She could feel his eyes on her back like a blade. But for the first time in 15 years, she did not care what he thought of her. As Naomi moved through the gala, she watched Marcus work the room. He was still charming, still commanding attention, still playing the role of the benevolent billionaire. But she noticed things now that she had trained herself not to see before. An investor pulling Marcus aside, his face tense with worry. A board member avoiding Marcus's handshake, making excuses to leave. A journalist from the Harrington Herald asking pointed questions about the company's liquidity, and Marcus deflecting with a joke that landed flat. The empire was cracking. She was not the only one who had noticed. It was nearly 11 when Naomi slipped away to find a quiet moment alone. She found herself near a private alcove off the main ballroom, catching her breath, trying to process everything she had witnessed. And then she heard Marcus's voice. He was just beyond the alcove, speaking to someone. His voice was low, urgent. "The forensic accountants are getting close. If they find the connection to the Harrington Shores project, we are finished." Another voice. Male. Naomi recognized it. Marcus's personal attorney. "What about your wife's signatures on the loans? If she can prove forgery, the entire structure collapses." Marcus laughed. A cold, bitter sound that Naomi had never heard from him before. "She cannot prove forgery. The signatures are airtight. I made sure of it. I practiced her handwriting for months. Every loop, every flourish. She cannot prove she did not sign because the signature looks exactly like hers. And the notary? Paid. Handled. He will swear under oath he watched her sign. The only way I lose is if she finds real proof that the signatures are forged. And that proof does not exist because I was careful." Naomi stood frozen in the shadows, her phone pressed against her chest. Recording. "I stood in the shadow of that alcove with my phone held against my chest, And I listened to my husband confess to crimes he was certain no one would ever discover. I practiced her handwriting for months. He said it like it was a business strategy, like forging my identity was just another line item on a spreadsheet. But I was not a line item. I was his wife. And now I had something more valuable than his money, his name, or his reputation. I had his voice telling the truth for the first time in years. Naomi has been frozen out of her own finances, abandoned by her social circle, and painted as unstable by the man who stole her identity. But now she has something he never expected, a recording of his own voice, confessing to everything. What would you do in her position? Would you hide, or would you show up? And stay with me. Because what happens next will change everything. Later that evening, Naomi found herself on the terrace overlooking the city. She had stepped outside to breathe, to think, to process what she had just recorded on her phone. The night air was cool against her skin. Below, the lights of Harrington Bay sparkled like scattered diamonds. Above, stars emerged one by one through the city's glow. She heard footsteps behind her. I thought I might find you out here. Marcus stepped onto the terrace. He was holding a fresh glass of scotch. His bow tie loosened, his jacket unbuttoned. He looked tired in a way she had not seen before. The cracks were showing. "Beautiful night," he said, moving to stand beside her at the railing. "Do you remember when we used to come to these galas together? When we actually enjoyed them? I remember standing next to you while you talked to everyone but me." He laughed softly. "That is not fair. Is it not?" They stood in silence for a moment, looking out at the city. Two strangers, wearing the costumes of a marriage that had died years ago. "You know," Marcus said, "I have been thinking about us tonight, about how we used to be. Is this the part where you pretend to be the man I married?" He turned to face her. The charm was gone now, something rawer underneath. "I am the man you married. I am just also the man you decided to destroy." Naomi met his eyes. "You destroyed yourself, Marcus. I am just the one who noticed." He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell the scotch on his breath. "Let me tell you how this ends. You sign the settlement. You walk away quietly. And in 5 years, no one will remember any of this. You will be the ex-wife who got a payout, and I will still be Marcus Hartwell. And if I do not sign," his voice hardened, "then I make sure every newspaper, every website, every person in this city knows that Naomi Langford was a gold digger who married above her station and could not handle it when she got caught in her own lies. I will bury you, Naomi. Not because I want to, but because you are leaving me no choice." She let his words hang in the air, let him believe he still had power over her. Then she spoke. "You know what I have learned, Marcus? Power is not about what you can destroy. It is about what you can build. And everything you have ever built was on a foundation of lies. The only question now is when it collapses, not if." She turned and walked back toward the ballroom. "Naomi." She stopped but did not turn around. "I loved you once," he said. "Maybe I still do. We can still fix this." She looked back at him, at the man she had married, at the stranger he had become. "You never loved me, Marcus. You loved the idea of me, the trophy, the transformation story. You loved telling people about the girl from Glendale Heights who became a Hartwell. But you never saw me. Not once." She walked away. He did not follow. And for the first time in 15 years, she did not care whether he would. The morning after the gala, Naomi sat in Diana's conference room with the recording playing on speaker. Adrian was there, taking notes. Diana was pacing, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. The signatures are airtight. I made sure of it. I practiced her handwriting for months. Marcus's voice filled the room. Arrogant, certain, damning. Diana stopped pacing. Naomi, do you understand what you have here? His voice, his words, his admission. In most jurisdictions, this recording alone would not be admissible. But combined with Adrian's forensic evidence, combined with the handwriting analysis, combined with everything else we have documented, Diana's voice was barely controlled. We have him. We actually have him. Adrian slid a folder across the table. The handwriting analysis came back yesterday. 3 independent experts. All conclusive. The signatures on both loan documents are forgeries. Naomi looked at the folder. At the evidence that proved what she had known in her gut from the moment she saw that first forged signature. So what happens now? Diana sat down across from her. Now we have a choice to make. We can use this evidence to force a settlement. Walk away with everything you deserve and let Marcus quietly implode on his own. Or we go to trial. Adrian cleared his throat. There is something else you should know before you decide. He opened another file. Documents covered with numbers, arrows, highlighted passages. The fraud at Hartwell Development goes beyond your loans. It is systemic. He has been defrauding investors for at least 5 years. Shell companies, falsified returns, Ponzi-like structures using new money to cover old losses. Naomi stared at the documents. So he is not just a thief. He is running a criminal enterprise. Adrian nodded. If this goes to trial, it will not just be about your divorce. It will be about federal charges, securities fraud, wire fraud. He could face prison. Diana leaned forward. And if he faces prison, Naomi, he will not settle quietly. He will fight with everything he has. He will try to take you down with him. He will claim you were complicit. But I was not. I did not know anything about this. I know that. We can prove it. But proving it will be a war. A public, ugly, exhausting war. Naomi was quiet for a long moment. She thought about the settlement Marcus had threatened, about the money she could walk away with, about the peace she could buy by staying silent. Then she thought about all the other women Marcus might do this to, all the investors he had already defrauded, all the lies that would continue if no one ever held him accountable. I spent 15 years disappearing because it was easier than fighting, and look where that got me. She looked at Diana, then at Adrian. If he wants a war, then he should know who he is fighting. The weeks before the trial were a battlefield. Marcus's legal team filed motion after motion. Attempts to suppress evidence. Challenges to the handwriting analysis. Claims that Naomi had been an active participant in the financial decisions she was now calling fraud. Naomi was deposed again. And again. Hours of questioning, designed to break her, to confuse her, to make her doubt her own memory. She answered every question the same way, calmly, clearly, without flinching. His attorneys painted her as a gold digger, as mentally unstable, as a bitter woman, seeking revenge against the husband who had given her everything. She did not rise to the bait. She had learned long ago that composure was her only armor. Marcus, for his part, remained publicly confident. He gave interviews, dismissing the allegations as a divorce tactic. He continued attending charity events, shaking hands, smiling for cameras. But behind closed doors, his empire was crumbling. Adrian's investigation had triggered an SEC inquiry. Investors were demanding audits. Banks were calling in loans. The Hartwell name, which had once opened every door in Harrington Bay, was becoming toxic. And then, 1 week before the trial, Marcus made one final play. The settlement offer arrived by courier. Naomi was in the garden at Crescent Manor, the garden she had designed, when the envelope was delivered. She opened it, standing among roses she had planted, overlooking the bay she loved. Diana called within the hour. Naomi, he is offering $8 million. Full ownership of Crescent Manor. No NDA. You can say whatever you want. Naomi stared at the document in her hands. You drop all claims related to the forgery allegations. You do not cooperate with any criminal investigation. You walk away. Rich, comfortable, and silent about what he actually did. And if I take it? Then Marcus Hartwell pays a lot of money to make this go away. And he never faces criminal charges. He survives. He rebuilds. He does this to someone else. Naomi walked through her garden. She touched the petals of a rose bush she had nurtured for 12 years. $8 million. Her home. Her freedom. All she had to do was stop fighting. I stood in the garden of Crescent Manor, holding an offer that would have seemed impossible 6 months ago. Enough money to never worry again. Enough freedom to start over. All I had to do was pretend I did not know what Marcus really was. All I had to do was let him get away with it. Diana, she said slowly, I need to think about this. Take your time. But Naomi, whatever you decide, I am with you. You know that. Naomi ended the call. She stood alone in the garden as the sun began to set. And that was when Marcus appeared. He came through the garden gate like he still owned the place. Maybe, legally, he still did. I wanted to talk to you before the trial, he said. Without the lawyers. Without the recordings. Just us. Naomi watched him approach. He looked different. Older. The confidence that had always seemed so unshakable was fraying at the edges. There has not been just us in a long time, Marcus. Maybe not. He stopped a few feet away from her. But I need you to understand something. Everything I did, the loans, the signatures, all of it. I did it because I was trying to save what my grandfather built. My father would have destroyed me if I lost this company. I was drowning, Naomi. And I made choices I am not proud of. You forged my signature. You stole from me. I know. She laughed. A sharp, bitter sound. You are sorry. After 15 years of erasing me, of taking credit for my work, of treating me like I was decoration in my own home, you are sorry. He stepped closer. But we can still fix this. Sign the settlement. Walk away, and I can make all of this disappear. The criminal investigation. The press, the social damage. I have resources. I can protect you. We can both move on. And that is supposed to be what? Reconciliation? Forgiveness? It is supposed to be reality. He spread his hands. You fight me in court, you might win. But winning costs everything. Naomi, your privacy, your reputation, your peace. Is it worth it? Just to prove a point? Naomi looked at the bay, at the garden, at the house she had built. Then she looked at Marcus. Really looked at him. Perhaps, for the first time in years. You know what I finally understand? You never saw me as your partner. I was always an asset to you. Something to manage, to deploy, to leverage. Even now, standing here, you are not asking for forgiveness. You are negotiating. Naomi, I am done being negotiated. I am done being signed away. I am done being the document you forge when you need to cover your lies. His face hardened. You are going to regret this. I loved you once. Maybe I still do. But if you go to trial, I will destroy everything. Naomi smiled. A real smile. A free smile. Marcus. I was always free. You just never saw it. And now I am going to make sure everyone else sees it too. She turned and walked toward the house. She did not look back. Behind her, Marcus stood alone in the garden, watching her go. The sunset painted everything gold. And for the first time, the light did not make Crescent Manor look like a prison. It made it look like home. The night before the trial, Naomi could not sleep. She walked through the mansion in the dark, through rooms she had designed, past windows overlooking the bay, through a life she had built with her own hands while someone else took credit. She ended up in her study. Her old sketches were still in the drawer. Designs. From before she became a Hartwell. Visions of what spaces could become. Her phone buzzed. A text from Adrian. Testimony is ready. Evidence is solid. You have done the hard part already. Get some rest. A second text, sent a minute later. And Naomi. Whatever happens tomorrow, you should know that watching you fight for yourself has been something to see. That is all. She smiled. The first genuine smile in weeks. She typed back, "Thank you for seeing me, Adrian. The real me." She set down the phone. She looked at her reflection in the dark window. For the first time in 15 years, she recognized the woman looking back. Tomorrow, Naomi walks into a courtroom to face the man who stole her identity, her money, and her voice. She has turned down $8 million and the chance to walk away. She is betting everything on the truth. And in a world where power usually wins, where the rich usually get away with it, she is about to find out if justice is just a word or something more. Stay with me. The verdict is coming. The Harrington County Courthouse was built in 1892. Marble floors. Vaulted ceilings. The kind of architecture designed to make ordinary people feel small. To remind them that the law was bigger than any individual, more powerful than any personal grievance. Naomi walked through those halls with her head high. Diana walked beside her. Adrian followed with boxes of evidence. Behind them, the press gathered in the corridor, cameras flashing, questions shouting. Mrs. Hartwell, how do you respond to allegations that you were complicit in the fraud? Naomi, is it true you are seeking $50 million in damages? Do you have any comment on your husband's claims of mental instability? She did not answer. She did not look back. She pushed through the courtroom doors and took her seat. Across the aisle, Marcus sat with his legal team. 3 attorneys in expensive suits, briefcases filled with motions and objections. He looked confident, relaxed. But Naomi saw the way his fingers drummed against the table, the tightness around his eyes, the small tremor in his jaw. He was afraid. Good. The trial lasted 3 days. On the first day, Diana presented the financial evidence. Bank statements showing the unauthorized loans, corporate records proving the shell companies, transaction logs tracing millions of dollars from Crescent Manor to Hartwell Development Partners to offshore accounts. Adrian took the stand. He walked through the forensic analysis methodically, patiently, in language the judge could understand. Mr. Cole, Diana asked, in your professional opinion, was Mrs. Hartwell aware of these financial transactions? No. Adrian's voice was steady. The records clearly show that Mrs. Hartwell was systematically excluded from all financial decisions. Her signature was required for legitimacy, but she was never informed of the nature or purpose of the loans she was allegedly signing. And were those signatures authentic? No. 3 independent handwriting analysts have confirmed that the signatures on both loan documents are forgeries. The signature patterns show mechanical precision inconsistent with Mrs. Hartwell's natural handwriting. Someone practiced her signature extensively before forging these documents. Marcus's attorneys objected. The judge overruled. On the second day, Marcus took the stand. He was charming, evasive, condescending. He dismissed the evidence as misunderstandings. He suggested Naomi had simply forgotten signing the documents during a stressful period. He implied that her accusations were the result of bitterness over the divorce. Diana cross-examined him for 4 hours. "Mr. Hartwell, you claim your wife signed these documents voluntarily. Is that correct?" "Yes." "And you were present when she signed?" "I believe so, yes." "You believe so?" Diana held up a calendar. "According to your own travel records, you were in Tokyo on the date this document was notarized. How exactly were you present when your wife signed?" Marcus's smile flickered. "I may have the dates confused." "You may have the dates confused." Diana turned to the judge. "Your Honor, I would like to introduce audio evidence obtained by my client." Marcus's attorneys erupted. Objections filled the courtroom. Arguments about admissibility, about recording consent, about chain of custody. The judge listened to arguments from both sides. Then she ruled. "The recording will be admitted." The courtroom fell silent. Diana pressed play. Marcus's voice filled the room. Clear. Unmistakable. Damning. "The signatures are airtight. I made sure of it. I practiced her handwriting for months. Every loop, every flourish. She cannot prove she did not sign because the signature looks exactly like hers." Naomi watched Marcus's face as his own words betrayed him. The color drained from his cheeks. His confident posture collapsed. For the first time, he looked exactly like what he was. Caught. And the notary? Paid, handled. He will swear under oath. He watched her sign. Diana stopped the recording. The courtroom was absolutely silent. "Mr. Hartwell," Diana said, her voice cutting through the stillness. "Would you like to revise your testimony?" Marcus did not answer. His attorneys whispered urgently in his ears. He shook his head. "No further questions," Diana said. On the third day, the judge delivered her ruling. The court finds that the signatures on the home equity loan documents were fraudulent. The evidence overwhelmingly supports the conclusion that Marcus Hartwell III forged his wife's signature to obtain loans she never authorized. Naomi's hands trembled in her lap. Diana gripped her arm. "The loans against Crescent Manor are hereby invalidated. Mrs. Langford Hartwell is entitled to her full share of marital assets, including sole ownership of the family residence." Across the courtroom, Marcus sat frozen. His attorneys were already packing their briefcases. Furthermore, the court is referring this matter to the district attorney's office for investigation of criminal charges, including forgery, fraud, and financial manipulation. Mr. Hartwell is advised to retain criminal counsel. The gavel came down. It was over. The moment after the verdict was strangely quiet. Naomi sat at the plaintiff's table as the courtroom emptied around her. Diana was shaking hands with colleagues. Adrian was packing up evidence boxes. Reporters were rushing to file their stories. But Naomi sat still. She watched Marcus being led toward the exit by his attorneys. His shoulders were slumped. His face was gray. The man who had once commanded every room he entered looked small now, diminished. At the door, he turned. Their eyes met across the courtroom. Naomi did not gloat. She did not weep. She did not look away. She simply stood. Marcus held her gaze for one long moment. Then he turned and walked out of the courtroom, out of her life, out of the story he had tried to write for her. The door closed behind him with a sound like an ending. Outside the courthouse, the press was waiting. Cameras flashed, microphones thrust forward, questions overlapped in a wall of noise. Mrs. Hartwell, how do you feel about today's verdict? Naomi stopped on the courthouse steps. Diana stood beside her. Adrian waited near the car. She looked at the cameras, at the faces, waiting for her response, at the city she had lived in for 15 years as someone else's wife. Then she spoke. First, my name is Naomi Langford. I was always Naomi Langford. And today, I am grateful that the truth was finally heard. What is next for you? She smiled. I am going home. Across the courthouse plaza, Marcus was being escorted to a waiting car. His attorneys formed a wall around him, blocking cameras, deflecting questions. He did not look back at the courthouse. He did not look at Naomi. He climbed into the car and disappeared. Naomi watched him go. There was no satisfaction in his fall, no joy in his destruction, only clarity. Diana touched her arm. You did it, Naomi. You actually did it. We did it. You and Adrian, and everyone who believed me. No. Diana shook her head. We helped, but you walked into that courtroom and faced him. That was all you. They stood together on the courthouse steps as the press dispersed. The sun was warm on Naomi's face. She was free. 6 months later, Crescent Manor looked different in the morning light. Not because anything had changed architecturally. The rooms were the same. The views were the same. The garden still bloomed, with roses Naomi had planted years ago. But something had shifted. The light fell softer now. The silence felt peaceful instead of oppressive. The house no longer felt like a museum of someone else's legacy. It felt like home. Naomi walked through the halls with a cup of coffee, her bare feet on the reclaimed oak floors. She had let most of the staff go, preferring solitude to service. The rooms she kept were the ones she loved. The others she had closed off, saving them for a future she was still imagining. Her drafting table stood by the window in what used to be Marcus's study. She had reclaimed the space, filled it with her own designs, her own vision. Langford Design. That was the name on her new business cards. Not Hartwell. Not even Langford Hartwell. Just Langford. Her. She had taken on 3 new clients in the past month. Real estate developers who wanted her eye. Families who had heard about the woman who could transform any space into a home. Young entrepreneurs who saw something inspiring in her story. But her favorite project was different. Every Tuesday afternoon, Naomi drove back to Glendale Heights, to the community center where she had taken art classes as a child, to a room full of young women who reminded her of who she used to be. She taught them what she knew: how to see potential in empty spaces, how to trust their own vision, how to build something lasting from nothing but imagination and work. They called her Miss Naomi. They asked her questions about design, about business, about how to make it in a world that did not always make room for girls like them. She answered as honestly as she could. Work hard, trust yourself, and never let anyone else sign your name. Adrian came for dinner on a Thursday evening. They had been seeing each other regularly since the trial. Nothing rushed, nothing declared. Just 2 people learning to trust, learning to see, learning to build something without blueprints. He brought wine. She made pasta. They ate on the terrace overlooking the bay. These are beautiful, Adrian said, looking at the design sketches spread across her drafting table. Really beautiful. They are just ideas. Ideas become houses. Houses become homes. That is not just anything. She smiled. When did you become a philosopher? I have always been a philosopher. I just hid it behind spreadsheets. They laughed. The sound echoed across the terrace and disappeared into the evening. Later, they stood at the railing, watching the sunset paint the bay in shades of gold and rose. You know what I noticed? Adrian said, the first time I read through your case? What? You never asked anyone to save you. You just asked for the tools to save yourself. That is rare. Maybe. Or maybe I was just too stubborn to surrender. He turned to look at her. That is the same thing. She met his eyes. For a long moment. Then she smiled. A real smile. A free smile. Thank you, she said quietly. I did not see you, Naomi. You showed yourself. You always had it in you. You just forgot for a while. The sunset faded. The stars emerged. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the world turn. Neither of them knew exactly what the future held. But for the first time in a long time, that uncertainty felt like possibility instead of fear. Late that night, after Adrian had gone, Naomi sat alone in her study. A single lamp illuminated her desk. Outside, the bay was dark and still. Before her lay a legal document. The final transfer of Crescent Manor to her name, alone. The last piece of paperwork from the divorce. She picked up a pen. A simple pen, nothing fancy. The kind she had used to sign contracts when she was just starting out, back when her signature meant hope instead of entrapment. She looked at the signature line. For 15 years, someone else had written her story, had signed her name to decisions she never made, had used her identity to cover his lies. No more. She pressed the pen to paper. Naomi Langford. The signature was hers. Every curve, every flourish, every letter. Her name, her choice, her life. He thought the house was his. He thought I was his. But brick and mortar, paper and ink, they do not make a home. Courage does. Truth does. And in the end, the only signature that mattered was the one I refused to give, and the one I finally gave to myself. Naomi set down the pen. She looked out the window at the bay, at the darkness that would give way to dawn, at a future she was finally free to imagine. She smiled. She had spent 15 years being erased. 15 years shrinking into the margins of her own life. 15 years letting someone else hold the pen. No more. From now on, every signature would be hers. Every choice would be hers. Every page of her story would be written in her own hand. She turned back toward her home. Her home. The words felt different now. Real, in a way they never had before. The screen fades to black. Here is what I want you to carry from this story. Your name is the most valuable thing you own. Not your money, not your reputation, not the house you live in, or the person who sleeps beside you. Your name. And there will be people in your life, some of them people you love, who will try to write your story for you, who will try to sign your name to decisions you never made, who will try to erase you so slowly that by the time you realize it, you will wonder if you ever really existed at all. Do not let them. Because the moment you stop signing your own name, the moment you let someone else write your life, you do not disappear all at once. You disappear in inches, in compromises, in silences, until one day, you look in the mirror and see someone else looking back. Naomi could have taken the money. She could have walked away. She could have let Marcus tell her story and called it survival. But she chose something harder. She chose to reclaim her signature, not just on documents, but on her entire life. And that is not revenge. That is not even justice. That is resurrection. So I am asking you, and I really want you to think about this. Whose name is on your life right now? Are you writing your own story? Or is someone else holding the pen? Because the truth is, you are the only one who can write your name, and you are the only one who can refuse to let anyone else forge it. That is the lesson. That is the truth, and I hope you never forget it. If this story meant something to you, if you have ever felt erased, or silenced, or signed away, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell me your story. Subscribe to this channel if you have not already, and turn on those notifications so you never miss a story like this one. I am from the Isle of Secrets, and I will tell you what I tell everyone who watches these videos. Some stories entertain, some stories distract, but the ones that matter, the ones worth telling, are the ones that remind us who we are. This was one of those stories.